One Incorporated, Radio One, or any of its subsidiary companies. Attorney Nathaniel Lee, a lawyer with credibility, success, and experience. Representing people in hundreds of jury trials, Nathaniel Lee is who you want by your side in the courtroom. You've seen the rest, now hire the best. Contact Lee, Cosell, and Feigley today. And now, to address the legal concerns of the community, Praise AM 1310, 95.1 FM presents Legally Speaking. Here are today's hosts.
Good morning, everyone. This is Nathaniel Lee. Thank you so much for joining our show each week. And for the people down in South Florida, just log on to the internet. You could also see us on Facebook. I know that you're called for a link. But there's so many hot topics facing the day. I've got my superstar panel, Attorney Vanita Banks, cybersecurity expert, master's in tax. Also, Attorney Marlon Prime, former U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney and expert on federal laws and procedures and processes. And also, I have an American war hero going to be a guest again, Stan Willisley. And Stan led the brigade in Operation Desert Storm, the gigantic tank brigade that wiped out the army of Iraq, like in 48 hours, it seemed like, as I recall. But in any event, we'll start out with that story, and then we'll get into, there's about a dozen topics today, so we're going to try to get through a lot of things today. So first, Stan, are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Colonel, now give us a quick update. This war is getting out of control. What's going on? What's your source in the Pentagon telling you about? What's going on?
Yeah, I remember we had talked about this expedition force being deployed, and I've been trying to get a readout from my contacts and to see, what this is. And they come up with about 3 or 4 options with these 2,500 Marines.
Well, I don't understand that, Colonel. How the Iran has over 500,000 soldiers, so why would 2,500 Marines take on 500,000 soldiers? That doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't, and I don't think that would be the strategy. Normally, this kind of force is used to protect like embassies or somewhere. I'm figuring maybe used around the Strait of Hormuz to try to keep that, or try to get it open and keep it open and protect it. And one of the things that's used for this 2,500 man unit is to be the foreshadow or the initial security for a ground force coming in. And they have not only infantry, but they have a lot of special forces and Delta Force type people.
Yeah, but don't they need to have, like, you led that tank brigade, don't they have to have those tanks in there if they're going to get into some type of ground operation there?
Yes, and I think that is really an option, but to put a armor force, mechanized infantry tanks in there, it would take weeks. It took months to get the force ready for Desert Storm. So this may be just a prelude to that, but it would to have an actual ground force in there to go and do whatever the mission is. It's going to take weeks and months to do that. One of my other concerns is these folks may be going in there, that I've heard, to secure uranium and plutonium and all the minerals that are available in Iran. They may be going in for that. But I think as the time goes on, especially the weeks, we'll get a better readout. But right now, it's really kind of vague of what the administration is trying to accomplish, if they know.
Well, why are we there? Have you figured that out yet? Why are we in there bumming these folks in the first place?
I think the president got talked into this by Netanyahu and by the Secretary of Defense to go in and, destroy the Middle East, or at least Iran and Hezbollah, and there's a couple of other aligning Islamic groups with them. I think it's to go in and destroy them, and I think saying we're going to take out their nuclear capability, all of that is secondary to what their main objective is, and I don't know if they know, and if they have really not stated it. And I don't think regime change is going to be one of those, but we'll see.
Well, hey, Colonel, this war is escalating. I mean, now we're on alert all around the world. Bombs are being deployed, drones are being sent. I mean, this matter is spreading. Where's it
Yes,
headed?
this could get out of hand. And I'm interested to see why he eased the sanctions on Russia. And, that was supposedly after an hour-long phone call with Putin. But I have my own, wild theories about him and Putin, and him being a patsy, not only a patsy for Putin, but I think, and this is strictly me talking, I think Putin has some extremely embarrassing things on him that he keeps threatening with. So I don't know, but this 2,500 man force cannot do a whole lot on its own, but it can protect embassies. It can protect a small bit of land at a time. And it can, like I said, one of the things I think it may be going in there for is to secure this country's nuclear materials.
Hey, Benita, Marley, have any questions for the Colonel?
Say again?
I asked them if they have a question. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Stan, for that outstanding update and your perspective on why. And I just read in the last couple hours that 5,000 sailors and Marines were being deployed to the Middle East. And you've clarified, given the small numbers, what that purpose might be. But I go back to just the fundamental rule of law, which is that the Constitution states specifically that only Congress has the power to declare war. And it does not appear, or no evidence has been provided. I'm wondering, Stan, if you can speak to whether the president's actions were based on an imminent threat. We've heard lots of different messaging from this president over the last 10 days. We also heard from Marco Rubio that we had to strike before they had to strike. So I'm just interested in your thoughts on why the U.S. has entered into this illegal and unconstitutional war that has not been authorized by Congress.
Yes, and it's not unprecedented because we did the Korean War without a declaration of war. We did the Vietnam War without a declaration of war. But let me tell you from what I understand and from what my contacts tell me, especially in the Department of Defense, the administration does not have clear stated objective goals. They are kind of flying like a typical Trump, and that is by the seat of his pants and feelings, and who he can keep happy and how he can profit from it. And when I heard in June that we annihilated all of their nuclear capabilities, then 8 months later we saying they're capable of striking the U.S. Mainland within weeks, within days. Somewhere, somebody's lying. And I don't know if that's ever going to get sorted out, maybe in the end, but I'm not sure if a nuclear threat is the reason that we went and attacked this country. It is about oil. Everybody around the world is about oil now. And I think Netanyahu has pushed Trump and Rubio to invade this country, and not invade it, but to take this country down. But like I said last week, there are no clear-cut objectives and goals that this administration has told the American people why we are in war. And until we push, and some of the Democratic senators especially are pushing to get this, we won't know why he really went in there and attacked this country.
Well, thank you so much for your service. One of the questions that I have for you, Colonel, I don't know if you can hear me. It seems as though those like yourself that have been in battle have a different perspective as it relates to, using war as an objective. And, politicians may have another perspective. Can you really kind of talk to the audience about, someone like yourself that has battle experience and why war should be a last resort, and the impact of somebody without war experience, saber rattling and not really understand the unpredictable consequences of war?
Yeah, the civilian politicians, our civilian government, control the president's commander in chief, then you got the secretary of defense. They dictate what the military does. That's based on strategic policies, our strategic objectives, our strategic goals, and what the president and that cabinet wants to get done when it comes to foreign policy. The military is the executors. We're the ones that go in and enforce and uphold the policies and procedures of our administration. And we do that, the military, no questions, unless it is illegal. Okay? We do it whether we like it or not, but we go and do it. And so from a military standpoint, it's okay. It really is. It's okay because we're going to do what we're told because that's our job. And we're going to do what we're told. And we're going to hope General Kane, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, is going to give the president great options militarily on how to accomplish his goals. But there again, I say I don't know what the goals and objectives for attacking Iran. I don't know. The public doesn't know. And until we find that out, we're just kind of floundering and listening to what they're saying. And the goalpost changes every time you speak to the president or Rubio or Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. So I've been told, and this is by contacts I know, especially in the Department of Defense, they're flying by the seat of their pants. Yeah, and to go in and now open this straight up is going to be lots and lots of casualties. And just a side note here, I think Iran is going to dig in. They're not going to capitulate. The new leader has already said, you murdered my father, my mother, my wife. We're going to get revenge. And if you go back and look at history, they get revenge. And so one of my friends told me the other day, yesterday rather, said, we'll see if the president becomes Taco. Trump always caves in. We'll see. I don't know. And so this is really kind of fluid, and it has the potential as it escalates to really, really have lots of casualties. And we're not getting, as the American people, the real number on American, Iranian, or even in our allies countries, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and any of those. We're not getting the real casualties numbers. They are a lot higher than what the media portrays.
Hey, Colonel,
Yes, and
I ought to have one quick critical question here. They want to know, can the military achieve any reasonable objective without boots on the ground in the first instance? In other words, if they're trying to achieve some military objective here, they said that they had bombed the nuclear weapons last June, but we're unclear. But what can they accomplish if they don't put boots on the ground and then soldiers start dying?
Yeah, and I think one of the administration's objective here is to bomb them into submission. And normally that doesn't work unless, we're going to just bomb and spend all of our money on Tomahawk missiles, which are, few $100,000 each. Eventually, if you're going to control the land, you're going to
Yeah, we temporarily lost the Colonel. He had to call back in. Hey, but Marlon, you were talking, explain this process. I'm sorry, we lost you there, Colonel. Go ahead. We lost you for the last 30 seconds. What were you saying?
Oh, you lost me?
Yeah, you lost the sound when you were moving. Just go ahead.
Okay. I think what I was saying was, oh, I forgot what I was saying. I had so many things on my mind that I wanted to tell y'all. But anyway,
Well, I
ask
mean,
me
one
the
of the things,
question again.
go
Uh-huh.
ahead.
Go
Because
ahead,
I think
Marlon.
my signal's going
Yeah,
in and out.
yeah. I think before you'd indicated that, our military certainly, they take, orders obviously from the commander in chief and those that have designated. But I guess my point that I wanted you to maybe go into is that, the a politician's perspective about war and preparing the public from that about war and the consequences of it would be different from the perspective of military professionals that have been in the theater of war. What is it that you would explain, or your colleagues that have war experience that would explain about the unpredictability of war that the American public should know about before we get ourselves entangled in an issue like this?
Yeah, and I go back to say, because in war, we call it the fog of war. There's always the unexpected. There's always going to be things you think the enemy does that he doesn't do, or that you think he will do that he doesn't do, and you adjust. And we call it in the military shoot on the move. But you adjust to all of that, and that won't be our issue. Our issue is going to be, what are the goals and objectives? And I keep saying that because they're not clearly defined. And once you know what the strategic goals and objective is from our politicians, then the military goes in there and execute the military part of that. And as a part of that, we have an administration now that tells the military, go sit in a corner and be quiet, and we'll call you when we need you. If you go back to Desert Storm, the person that always did all the talking and represented the country for the military action was Colin Powell. And we don't have that now. We have the Secretary of Defense up being like he's on Fox News again, being a commentator with this big bad talk. But the military in this war has taken a back seat. This is our politicians, and the military is not briefing us. They'll do it with Pete Hegseth, but he comes from still a subordinate point of view. And so I'm concerned about the goals and objectives. But once they are clearly stated, the military is going to do their job. We're going to have casualties. That's just no way of getting around it. But the government owes us, the American people, before we send our mothers and fathers, our sisters and brothers, and children to war to die, what we in this for. And that just frustrates me to death because it is not defined at all.
If you remember
Hey,
Colin Powell, you go ahead,
hey,
Nathaniel.
one question.
Yeah.
Hey, Colonel, when you led that tank brigade, how many total soldiers did you guys lose in defeating the Iraqis? I mean, was there like a 2-day engagement, real
Well, it was
quickly?
100 hours, and I think all total, the military lost about, I think, 170 people or so. I personally lost two soldiers in my tank battalion that we got hit by a T-72 tank. And so the military is going to do a great job. We're just concerned about we're just concerned about the political, which I think this administration is totally incompetent about what they want to get done, and I don't think they know. That just frustrates me to death, like I keep saying.
Go
Well,
ahead,
one of the
Marlon.
things,
Sorry.
oh, no, no, you go ahead. Okay. Yeah. One of the things that the late General Colin Powell said that kind of resonates with me is that if you break a country, you own it. And can you kind of speak to, Colin Powell's admonition in that regard, and then just kind of talk about, what lessons, if any, should we have learned about the concept of regime change, and then, the unpredictable results from that?
Yeah, and that was Colin Powell's thinking, and that is the right way to think, and that's what we always say in the military when you go to the Commanding General Staff College: you break it, you own it. I don't think this administration has that philosophy. I would not be surprised if we go in here and just totally destroy this country and leave it vulnerable to other enemies and we walk away. That would not surprise me. That is inhuman and inhumane.
However, Stan, can we afford to have that type of volatility and chaos in the Middle East?
We already do.
It's already there, right?
It is. And people or countries now are starting to take sides.
And we've opened Pandora's box. But this president promised on day one that he would address our economy. And he also promised no forever foreign wars. And so we're seeing the exact opposite of that. This war is costing us $2 billion a day. And we're seeing the price of gas go up in the last 10 days by at least 25% from $2.99 to almost $4. And it will not take time, a lot of time for food costs to increase, shipping costs, trucking costs, um, and of course, all those costs will be borne by the American people.
Yes, just like tariffs that ended up costing us about $1,700 a family. Um, now this is me talking. I don't believe a word the president says. He is a pathological liar. He said on day one, stop the war in Ukraine. Day one, gas prices go down. Day one, food prices go down. That was all just campaign rhetoric, and
Yeah, we're losing you again, Colonel. Okay, I think we've lost him.
reality and the real world is here, and he knew that when he was saying it. And so we're going to have to walk in. Shoot. I mean, it must be not bad. Can you hear me now, Nathan?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. I don't know where I got cut off there. But we have an administration here that I don't believe a word they say. And all of the campaign promises he made, uh, they have not panned out, have been nothing but lies. I know it's much easier said than done, but when you say, uh, I'm going to stop the war in Ukraine on day one, gas prices are going to go down on day one, food prices are going to go down on day one, that was all just political rhetoric. And none of that has worked out or panned out. And so I think we just have to go through this day by day and see how this war comes about. It is expanding in the Middle East, and like I said, we got countries now taking sides. Um, we have alienated and stabbed our allies in the back. And Iran is not a country historically that is just not going to roll over and play dead.
Well, hey, thank you very much for calling in. I know you attended a couple of funerals today, so thank you very much, Colonel, and we'll talk to you next week, okay? Take care.
Okay, thank you so much. And for your listeners, one more time, please call your congressmen and senators and tell them they have to press the president for clear goals and objectives so the American people know why we're there.
Thank you.
Okay?
Take care now. Bye-bye now.
Good. See you next week. Thank you.
Yeah, give us another update. Okay, I'm sure there's going to be something to talk about next week because this ever-spinning war eventually start having some adverse effect here in our community. Not just gas prices, but the security threat is real.
Sound okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Sound like I knew what I was talking about.
Hey, so, hey, Marlon, one of the things that the audience need to know, could you give a quick overview as to the agreement we had under Obama? Tell us about that so people could get a historical perspective as to how this war should not have taken place in the first instance.
Yes, Nathaniel, it certainly is disconcerting. And, as hopefully many of your listeners may recall, is that President Obama was confronted with the accusations about Iran attempting to develop a nuclear weapon. And in response to that, instead of just, starting a bombing campaign, what President Obama did is he thought, logically, and thought about, the consequences. And so what he did is that he used the international apparatus that the United States helped establish to the United Nations following World War II. And he got an agreement with the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. And they entered an agreement with the United States that Iran's, nuclear development would be monitored by the Atomic Energy Commission. By all accounts, after this deal was in fact signed, the reports were that Iran was complying with that. Meanwhile, before this agreement was implemented, we had then Prime Minister Netanyahu, who, in my view, and the view of many people, took a very unprecedented stance in that, they're an ally of the United States, but he was actively lobbying members of Congress to oppose this deal that President Obama struck with Iran and other members of the Security Council. And not only did he, lobby behind the scenes, the evidence in the open is that Prime Minister Netanyahu came officially to United States Congress and gave a speech in the hall of Congress condemning, the agreement that President Obama had achieved. And President Obama, in the wake of that, basically said, well, hey, what is your counter solution? Is it war? Is it permanent war? And really challenged Prime Minister Netanyahu to come up with an alternative. And as we see through the prism of time, there really was none. So after President Obama left office, President Trump was elected for his first term, and they tore up this agreement with Iran in the United States. And as a consequence, that really put the credibility of the United States, in doubt, in that you have an agreement, it was signed, and Iran agreed to abide by it and was agreeing to abide by it. And then we have later on during President Trump's second term, there's allegations that that Iran is building or creating weapons of mass destruction. And then we since we don't have this agreement in place, they go ahead and take offensive measures. First to bomb alleged nuclear facilities 8 months ago, which would have been monitored according to this agreement by President Obama. Then there was an indication that, hey, that was obliterated. And then, 8 months later, now we're in this present war saying that, hey, the reason for the war is that we want to make sure they don't develop weapons of mass destruction. So it certainly is problematic. And I hope that if people do get out and vote and that there is a new members of Congress that the Democrats take control, this is something that really needs to be thoroughly investigated. About the alleged reasons that we went to war, why we tore up this agreement that perhaps could have prevented us from being in this place. And so those are things that people should really think about, and probably one of the very important reasons why people should get out to vote and make sure they're educated about the various issues and the impact that a change in presidency can cause.
Yeah. Attorney Banks, you have any comments?
My comment is simply that, just piggybacking on Attorney Prime's remarks, is that in 2015, Iran agreed to a long-term deal on its nuclear program with a group of world powers, including the US, the UK, France, China, Russia, and Germany. And under that agreement, Iran agreed to limit its sensitive nuclear activities and allow in international inspectors to monitor um, its actions in return for lifting what had been seriously crippling economic sanctions. And that plan was formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and was negotiated, agreed to, bring it up to current time during President Trump's administration. They've torn up that agreement, allegedly decided to go in and take this illegal action against Iran, um, after alleging that they had not been acting in good faith in terms of the current negotiations regarding a new agreement. And I agree with Attorney Primes that this is one of many reasons why, as American citizens, we must understand the issues and exercise our fundamental right to vote, because this is certainly a matter that, depending on the outcome of our midterm elections, should be investigated by the new Congress.
And not only that, the really important thing that I want to just say real briefly is that even with that backdrop, a few days before this war broke out, there was an international mediator, Oman, the country, basically was holding talks between the United States and Iran. And Oman officials reported that there was progress being made. And that it appeared that there was going to be a breakthrough, and then there wasn't allowing that that negotiation process to reach its end. And even prior to that, the Israelis, when there was negotiations in other third-party countries, they attempted to assassinate Iranian officials that participated in the same. So when you look at this in the entire context, President Obama has an agreement with Iran and the other members of the Security Council. Then they tear up the agreement when President Trump gets there. His second term, there's negotiations. A third party says that there's progress in those negotiations, and then we go to war immediately thereafter. And then a few weeks before that, there's further negotiations, and Israeli officials assassinated Iranian officials that were part of that meeting process. So this is really troubling and something that really should be, investigated, in my view, by both the Senate and the House Foreign Intelligence Committees to really get to the bottom of it. Because, the greatest treasure of our country are our young people. And if we put our young people in harm's way, and there's a possibility that they could be maimed or killed, it should be a last resort. And if it turns out that it wasn't, I think we should really get to the bottom of it.
Okay, Pierre, you have a question or comment for us, sir. Thanks for waiting. Go ahead.
Oh, good morning, everybody. While it's on my mind, for Attorney Primes, can you explain to the audience, I'll ask another question, but can you explain to the audience the War Powers Act? Because I believe the president has a certain amount of time before, to do what he has to do what he wants to do or do what he can before he has to go back to Congress and ask for something about whether or not we're going to go to war. But a couple things I wanted to bring up. We may have to commit troops to a number of places. Lebanon, Gaza, the Middle East. I mean, it's just not the Iranians we have to be concerned about. There's you got Hezbollah, and you've got other areas. I think one of the reasons that Trump decided to do this was, and I guess it goes back to Netanyahu. They gave the United States intelligence, or maybe it's false intelligence, that the Iranians put a hit out on Trump because he killed that one general back in his first administration. I don't know. But people in this country are going to have to sober up, because you had your general on, your military expert on. The standing military can only do so much before they have to come back, like you said, to Congress and figure out how we're going to do this manpower-wise. And the standing military is just there to fight for a certain amount of time before the country gets involved. I mean, those are things that we have to think about. But I want to let Attorney Primes answer that question on the War Powers Act. And then, Nate, if you will cover one of the reasons Jasmine Crockett lost that election, I want you to cover this, is because Houston didn't come out and vote. There's 1 million Black people in Houston, and only like 100 and some odd thousand came out and voted in that primary. So if Talarico's going to win that Senate election, he's going to have to get Black people out to vote. And thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Yes, and Nathaniel would know a lot about this as well. And thank you for your service, Nathaniel. But this came out during the aftermath of the Vietnam War. And in 1973, Congress basically indicated that, hey, there are limits on what the president can do. Now, the president can take action if it's deemed an emergency or for self-defense. But what the War Powers Resolution of 1973, which was passed by 2/3 majority and was overridden a presidential veto at the time, was essentially that there should be 48 hours of notice if this emergency happens, where a president is using autonomy to take the nation to war. It has to be emergency, and there should be notification of Congress within 48 hours, and that there's an indication that, at least under the War Powers Act, that the troops should only be committed to 60 days without further congressional approval. So that's basically it. There is some ebb and flow. Certainly the current administration is of the viewpoint that there's a unitary executive, and they almost kind of blank out the judicial and the legislative branch. So it's something that I think it's going to have to be revisited by the Supreme Court in terms of, the teeth in this legislation. But we did have a vote in Congress that was not successful recently as it relates to the president's authority in attempting to have an immediate secession, because Congress has the ability under the Constitution to declare war, not the president.
Okay, Imhotep, you got a quick question for us? Go ahead, sir.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning to all my great people. Nate, I just left the meeting over at Progressive Baptist Church with Ryan Mears and Cherish Pryor and Greg Taylor, getting some updates about some of the state bills and some of the issues we're going to be dealing with in Pike. I don't know if you're in Pike or North Central, but pretty good meeting. Got a couple questions in, so if you get a chance, you can talk to them real quick. You're pressed for time. The continued debasing of the Department of Justice. We saw the decision from the judge. I don't know if you probably discussed it. I just got out of the meeting, but Janine Pirro, who was unqualified to be over the United States Attorney of the District of Columbia, keeps taking loss after loss after loss. General Kelly got his rank back and all his back money. Now we see yesterday with Jerome Powell in that case. I know.
Turn it down. I can't hear. I'm on the phone.
I'm sorry. Was that someone?
No,
else?
go ahead. That was,
okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Attorney Primes, I know they have to burn you up, because generally on the federal level, these continued losses, when we know from the feds, they generally don't take all these losses. Letitia James, just go down the list, because of loyalty to Trump, not to the tenets of law and the Constitution. I want to get your opinion on that. And then number two, I'm going to reiterate this one more time. And I will say this to everybody listening. Dr. Neil Tyson put a video out yesterday about how war is bad. That's on YouTube, 19 minutes. It's the best 19 minutes I've looked at, looking at world, looking at the universe, looking at how we interact with one another from a scientific perspective. I applaud everybody to go look at that. And the reasoning, the illogical reasoning behind most wars and conflict like that, how from scientists, they may disagree, but they don't look to kill people. It's to sit up here and just say you want to kill people. It's not, there's no logic behind it when you're supposed to be discussing your differences and try to work them out. And if we think that there's any logic behind this administration and Pete Hegseth, who we just got a report on this week, that has blown Pete Hegseth has blown $93 billion, not $9.3 billion, not $930 million, not $93 million, not 930,000. Reports come out that Pete Hegseth has blown $93 billion from buying a $99,000 grand piano, lobster, crab, you name it. If you think there's any logic that comes out of this administration, please go back and look at Neil deGrasse Tyson's video, because there's no logic to what they're doing. There's no logic here. There was an agreement on the table 3 years ago. There was an agreement on the table with Obama. There was an agreement on the table 2 months ago. There was an agreement on the table. He's gone back on everything. So there's no logic here. And when we look at it, we can't trust him. That's why he knows this midterm is so important. And I'm dismayed at that number you gave about Houston down there. I got family in Houston. I stay on them about voting and being involved and going to city meetings and going to council meetings, this and the third. I think black people, we're just too busy worried about capitalism for a lot of us, and we forget the mechanics of a democracy. So we need to make sure we're discussing the mechanics of the democracy and get our people not so focused on just capitalism. And I think we could do better at that. And thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, just real quick in response to your question, I certainly appreciate it. Yes, I worked at the Department of Justice for 30 years, and one of the things that are part of our training, and no department is perfect, but they trained us based on a Supreme Court justice's opinion, where he says that the United States Department of Justice has a unique role in our society. While they may strike hard blows in terms of prosecuting crime, they can't strike foul ones. And that's, the moniker that we were taught, that it's not just about, winning every case, it's about doing justice. So it is saddened to see, these federal opinions that are mounting, saying that the Department of Justice is taking actions not based upon the facts, not based upon the law, but for inappropriate reasons. Now, the Jerome Powell decision is very important. I'll just talk about that real briefly. As many of your audience may know, Nathaniel, Jerome Powell is the head of the Federal Reserve that determines interest rates that have a big impact on our economy. And President Trump has been pressuring him to lower interest rates. And Jerome Powell has rightly pushed back and said, hey, we have to look at data to determine, if such a move is appropriate. So meanwhile, in the midst of this tug of war, there have been alleged accusations that Jerome Powell engaged in impropriety as it relates to a construction project at the Federal Reserve building. And the Department of Justice issued subpoenas. And the way this is typically supposed to be done, this should be done confidentially, but this stuff was leaked. And then Jerome Powell rightly moved to quash or stop the subpoena, and the federal judge basically indicated that the subpoena was pretextual and quoted a number of the social media posts by the president and concluded that it was pretextual and based upon the desire to get rid of Jerome Powell and based on false accusations of a crime. So a pretty devastating opinion, in my view, that I think your audience and Dan should take a look at. And I think it's really important that these group of federal judges around the country, including Justice Ketanji Brown, are really holding the administration accountable and making a factual and legal record of all the improprieties. And I think, people should take note of that.
I agree that the judges are holding the line on these illegal actions and executive orders. And despite the judge's opinion in this case, the U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro vows to appeal the judge's ruling, blocking these subpoenas issued to Federal Reserve Board Chair Jerome Powell. The judge held that there was no evidence whatsoever supporting the allegation that Powell committed any crime other than displeasing the president. And one of the questions raised was, did the prosecutors issue those subpoenas with the proper purpose? And the answer was resoundingly no. And that the dominant, if not the sole reason for these actions is simply to harass and pressure Powell to yield to the president or resign. And the judge cited at least 100 social media statements where the administration had made attacks on Chair Powell for resisting pressure to lower interest rates.
Hey, Attorney Banks, there's one of the most consequential elections going on in your state now, and I need to change topic real quickly. You have Dick Durbin, of course, is not running for re-election, and Dick Durbin, if the Democrat won the Senate, would have been chair of the Judiciary Committee. The Judiciary Committee, folks, the Judiciary Committee controls the appointment of local federal judges, federal marshals, U.S. attorneys, appellate court judges, and Supreme Court judges. Now, this is probably, in my mind, particularly in the legal profession, the most important committee there is. So in Illinois, Attorney Banks, we have something bizarre that I thought happened. So the leading candidate would be the Lieutenant Governor, Julianne Stratton, African-American, highly qualified individual running for Senate. And then you have a guy named Raja Krishnamurti, who is very wealthy. And that candidate decided to put money into Congresswoman Robin Kelly's campaign because she was polling about 10%. And the goals and objective, of course, is to beat the lieutenant governor. And I thought about that. So the people in your state have a really tough election, Counselor. What's going on?
It is one of the most hotly watched elections in the United States right now. And commentators believe that it may be a bellwether and for the tremendous amount of dark money that's being thrust into these campaigns. Again, you have Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, who has positioned herself as a fighter for the people and is pledged to go to DC as a new voice on behalf of the people for the state of Illinois. You have Raja Krishnamurthy, who has a lot of money, okay, and has raised a lot of money. In fact, from what I read, was spending about $450,000 per week on his campaign. And you have Robin Kelly, who is a current member of the U.S. Congress, and she is endorsed by the Congressional Black Caucus. She is also has advocated for reasonable gun rights laws, and she sponsored a current bill that has hundreds of signatures to impeach President Trump. It's going to be an interesting race. The polls, some polls say Lieutenant Governor Stratton is leading this race. Others say Krista Morphy is, but there is a lot of money that's being poured into this campaign. And early voting, Illinois residents ends today. I've early voted. I voted on Thursday so that I could be available to participate as a poll watcher on next Tuesday. March 17th is the primary election. There are a number of important races. The Senate race is right at the top, Attorney Lee. There is also a race to replace Robin Kelly, who is running for U.S. Senate, and Jesse Jackson Jr. is running to fill her seat.
Wow. Well, thanks for the update, because it's going to be a consequential race, one of the most important one in the country, I think, because even though it's a Democrat seat, but that's a very powerful seat because it's a large state, and traditionally that's been on the Judiciary Committee, and it's one of the most important. I've been a strong supporter of Lieutenant Governor Stratton, Attorney Banks, because of the fact that she's polling the best. But what disturbed me, though, is that Raja Krishnamurthy, they did $2 million in dark money in favor of Kelly to get her past the 10% to take more votes. And I just thought, man, that's really some brass knuckle type of campaigning. You're paying money to the opponent to increase the number. So I don't know. Hopefully,
I've heard about that tactic as well. These super PACs are secretly funding this campaign, and it really is a test case that's being watched very, very closely.
Yeah. Okay, let's take one last call. Caller, I think from New York. Go ahead. Oh, you're on mute, caller. Okay. Caller, can you hear me? Okay. She's still on mute. Okay, now there was a lot of issues that occurred this week, legal issues, just a whole bunch. Real quickly, Marlon, one of the most significant one, pertaining to your old law school, Georgetown. What's going on?
Yes, just real quickly, as many of your listeners may recall, Nathaniel, the administration had Ed Martin as a U.S. attorney, and he took a number of pretty drastic steps in just sending out letters randomly, having edicts as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and sent that letter to Georgetown Law School, my alma mater. Thankfully, we had a very supportive dean, and by way of background, Georgetown Law School has historically been one of the most diverse law schools in the country. In fact, the year I graduated from Georgetown, we had more African American graduates than any law school in the country. Myself and 75 others. So, in response to this letter of threats, there was the response from the dean, and there was a bar complaint because, as the dean explained, hey, this is part of their mission as the oldest Catholic university in terms of equity, and the threats that were being made by Ed Martin that he wasn't going to hire Georgetown graduates were certainly a bridge too far. And so then there's a bar complaint regarding that and a number of other activities that Ed Martin has engaged in. And as a result of his activities, the U.S. Senate refused to confirm him, and then he moved to somewhere else at the Department of Main Justice. So we have to keep our eyes on that, Nathaniel, as it relates to the outcome. But it's just really important for all attorneys to understand that, hey, you have to represent your client zealously, but you have to do it within the confines of existing law.
Well, I hope it goes forward, and because it's a terrible thing. Attorney Bink, any closing statement?
I would just say, for all the issues that we've discussed today, that it is important, it's critical that we exercise our fundamental right to vote. Again, Election Day, primary election day in Illinois is March 17th, 2026. Early voting ends today. Illinois is a model state for our election laws, and Illinois residents, you can register on primary election day, March 17th, in some polling locations. So please, exercise your fundamental right to vote.
Attorney Prime?
Yes, I would just echo the same thing, that elections do matter. And I know a number of your listeners, Nathaniel, are frustrated and saying, hey, what the difference is between parties. But we've seen in this first year that it's really taken our country in a direction that many people didn't anticipate. So again, it just goes to the importance of getting out to vote, educating yourself and educating others. And just briefly, looking at the SAFE Act that they're trying to pass could result in a number of people that look like us being disenfranchised. So again, it just reinforced the notion of listening to shows like yours, Nathaniel, and also just educating yourself and exercising your right to vote.
Well, I like to thank each and every one of our callers, and even the ones that I couldn't talk to today, because I really appreciate your effort. It's all hands on deck this year, folks. Democracy depends on it. Each day we see crazy things occurring. Last Friday, I knew we were going to have some crazy stuff happen when we find out from one of the lawyers that the current president allegedly had a settlement with some teenage girl for what would have been rape. And I said, oh man, this matter never going to end. So it looked like we were getting into a war to camouflage adverse publicity concerning rape of children. It's just a terrible thing. But at the end of the day, there's been a dramatic attack on diversity and inclusion, particularly for minorities. So when you're in the kitchen or having dinner, please encourage your friends, your family, your neighbors to make sure that voting this year is more important than ever. We've seen a dramatic rollback in the rights of African Americans. We see a record number of African American women become unemployed in the last year, the most in American history. So your vote is more important than ever. And I want you to make a plan today to call at least 10 of your friends, have them call 10 friends, and let's get our voter participation up past 8%. Thank you all, and God bless y'all. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.